thank you everyone for taking the time to join today's webinar. We're going to kickstart with a quick intro from Anand. Anand is one of the co-founders of Echelon. He'll be covering kind of what it is that Echelon actually does and how that segments into specifically CMDB. And then we'll hand over to Alvis. Alvis is one of the founding members of the Echelon delivery team and brings kind of over a decade of experience actually delivering ServiceNow for some of the biggest logos in the world. And so Alvis will kind of walk through a demo with Echelon focused on CMDB. So you'll actually be able to see the kind of product run live and how our agents work through the various challenges of finding and maintaining its breakages in your CMDB. To start, Anand, I'm going to hand over to you to give kind of a quick intro on Echelon and kind of tee up the general topic of the webinar.
Perfect. Give me 1 second as I just pull this up. My summary, and then I will share my screen. Amazing. Hopefully folks can see my screen on the call. Thank you, George, for that intro. Again, my name is Anand. I'm one of the co-founders here. Here to talk about Echelon and how we actually help our customers day to day. Now, Echelon is an AI workforce that helps your teams implement, maintain, enhance, modernize on top of the ServiceNow instance. Essentially, the way that we work here is we sit outside of ServiceNow, we connect into one or multiple of your ServiceNow instances, and then we help you sort of accelerate your day-to-day development on top of ServiceNow. And I guess in this case today, we're talking about CMDB, and Alvis, who's a certified master architect, will be walking through certain use cases of how Echelon helps with CMDB remediations and claims. So what does Echelon do actually? Echelon is a platform that helps you go from idea to structured documents or structured requirements. Helps you design through the solutions. So if you're doing the flows or integrations or implementing CSM, we actually help you align not only to ServiceNow's best practices, but also to the industry's best practices. So all of the years of learnings that Alvis and their team have learned through implementation gets incorporated into the platform. The biggest advantage here is we help you build 10x faster. Those can range from global scope catalog items, workspaces, but also at remediating your CI issues or running through any sort of baselining analysis of your CMDB. We not only help build, but we also help test. So we can write and create ATF tests automatically for you. And the best part of all of this is accessed and governed based on your best practices. So every action that Echelon takes is available for you to see along with the rationale, and then we follow your governance best practices as we build this. As I said earlier, Echelon is an AI workforce for the entire team. So the way that it surfaces up is not only a developer, but also the analyst, also the architect, and I guess in this case, also the platform owner, gets benefit from the Echelon workforce. So in this case, an architect at United Healthcare automates a ATF test generation, right? A platform owner can also look through and see how their actual implementations can get accelerated. So we actually we work with all types of personas when they interface with Echelon. Right? So hopefully I've given you enough of a taste of what Echelon can do as a platform. I'd want to hand this over to Alvis, who can show you folks how we can help with CMDB on Autopilot with Echelon. Over to you, Alvis.
All right, thank you. So I want to start off this webinar by asking a very simple question. Who here has tried implementing automated discovery and or automated service mapping in ServiceNow, IP-based? If you can, just go in the chat, just message yes, no. Just wanted to gauge an idea. How many have people tried it out? Yes, we got our first yes. Awesome. One person? Oh, nope. All good. Give it another 10 seconds for people to reply. All right. Looks like there's two no's and one yes, which is perfectly fine. So, out of the people, Arnav, as you may know, and maybe we'll, talk about this, a little bit further, people who have tried, automated discovery and automated service mapping, it's not one click, everything just works. A lot of the time, you're going to have to spend many, many hours, many, many weeks and experiencing the pain of debugging discovery log. So, when a discovery comes in, we're trying to discover all of these servers under the sun. Awesome. But each one of those servers may be deployed differently, different firewall rules, different kind of credential issues, right? We have to really look into each one of those servers to resolve those discovery errors. Now, if you have like millions and millions of servers, yeah, that's going to take a very long time to do automated discovery and automated service mapping. So I think it's safe to say, hey, it is a pain to manage this. It does take a team to fix all these discovery error. I've been there deploying discovery, deploying service mappings. Not an easy task. It requires a lot of debugging, combing through logs, looking at credentials, firewall fixes, and all of those great things. But we know ServiceNow says, hey, discovery and service mapping is the preferred way in keeping your CMDB updated and achieving that CSDM crawl phase, which is automated discovery and service mapping. Allows you to do that service impact later on. So today I wanted to show you how Echelon can help you with both CSDM crawl phase and CSDM walk phase. But like I wanted to start with CSDM crawl phase where we're in the middle of deploying discovery, mid-server is set up, credentials are working, we think the firewall rules, everything is working as expected, but we ran into our first error discovering Solaris, right? So let me share my screen and let's see how Echelon does. All right, someone from the Echelon team, let me know if my screen is showing.
Yep, it works.
Awesome. So this is Echelon's interface. Just like any other LLM chat tool, you have an interface. It's connected to our dev instance. So you can see it's connected to technology demo 01. So it knows the full context of your instance and it's able to query your instance. So I'm just going to type, here is a discovery log. I am trying to discover Solaris. Solaris. There is an issue. Help me find the fix. And let me just upload a sample discovery log. All right. So what traditionally would take weeks and weeks, and you'll see very, very soon, it's going to be very fast to be able to resolve and find that root cause and even be able to give your Linux team, Solaris team, whatever technology teams you have in your business, a fix or a report on what needs to be done to help fix discovery for your ServiceNow instance. So right now it's just querying some knowledge that it has in the backend. You'll also see that later on it's gonna do a diagnosis. So give it a little bit some time. It's only at 40 seconds, and see what it comes back with.
Alvis, as this is working, can you tell folks about how we connect to the instance and And is it just one instance that we can connect to, multiple instances? How does that work?
Yeah, for sure. So Echelon connects to, let's just say, your dev instance or any other instance that you want to connect to through a service account. Just like how you would create a service account for integration, you'll create that locally in your ServiceNow environment, and it connects through OAuth. So highly secure, connected through OAuth, and you can connect multiple instances. So you can, choose if you have multiple development instances, staging instances, whatnot, you can connect to all the instances and you can choose which instance you want to work in for each one of the chats. So you can see right now I'm connected to 01. I'm also connected to, oops, sorry about that. A little refresh, 02. So I can choose between each instance and where I want to work in. I also wanted to mention that, with Echelon, we can multitask. So right now, while this is running, you can decide what you want to do, right? You can boot up another chat and work on something else, build a story, maybe debug another discovery log. Maybe you want to go get coffee, right? You can just use Echelon to, help you accelerate, but also help you multitask. So within 2.5 minutes, I would say, still working, just finalizing the document that's going to send out. A was able to determine that, hey, the reason I'm not able to discover Solaris is because DMI decode is not installed on your Solaris target server. So what does that mean, right? So it's trying to go through the exploration phase. There's an error. It tried to run this command. It says the command is not found. So it's telling you what the root cause is and what that fix is. So we should tell our Solaris technical team to run this command and, hey, run this command and install demi decode to ensure that you can continue discovering Solaris. And what happens if you don't, install this command? So some clients said, hey, I'm not going to install this command. Maybe it's security risk. Echelon's able to tell you what don't you get if you don't have this command. So if you don't have this command, you're not going to have base part manufactured. You're not going to have OEM string. You're not going to have memory slot detail. If you're okay with that, no problem, right? As long as you're okay and approve that I'm not going to get these fields, then you probably don't have to install this. But for the rest of us that want to fully discover Solaris and all of the details, we should give this to our technical team or Solaris technical team to install this command. Another thing I mentioned is, yes, I uploaded a discovery log through an XML, but you can make Echelon run as an agent. So every time you have a discovery error, it's going to trigger Echelon to run this exact command and give you this solution to each one of your discovery errors, automated. Any questions with this first part?
We had a maybe a relevant question. Question was, can Echelon install in mid server?
Can Echelon install on the mid server?
Or a mid server?
A mid server?
Yeah.
We do so. Echelon is not gonna install, like, automate your environment. It's not gonna go into your environment, download the jar file and install in your environment. But what it can do is debug mid-server issues. So if you have a mid-server that's not running properly, has a credential error, or it's not started up, it can pull in those mid-server logs from your instance and debug why that mid-server is not working properly. Hopefully that answers the question. All right. So traditionally, like I said, without Echelon, this probably would take 1 week to fully debug, fix a single discovery or service mapping issue. Usually it requires an ITOM expert required to look through all those thousands of lines of discovery logs, discovery pattern logs, and that interface where you can dig into all the different pattern steps and see which step went wrong. And then deploy a fix and test it again, and so on and so forth. That takes weeks and weeks and weeks for each one of these kind of like CIs. Echelon was able to, do this within 3 minutes, find the root cause, and even generate a document for your infrastructure team to, get started on that fix. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Arnav?
We had one more question, and maybe you can show this as a different use case as well.
Yeah.
How does Echelon review business rules across CMDB hierarchy to identify conflicts, overlaps, or poorly implemented logic?
Yeah, exactly what you said. You can just say, hey, Echelon, show me any, custom business rules that may be conflicting with, out of the box, IRE, scripts, business rules. Tell me what the remediation plan is. Generate a touch. Yeah, so I would say talk to Echelon as if you're talking to, any new teammate that's on your team. Talk to Echelon. It has, I would say, treat Echelon as a very, very smart, architect that's new to your organization, right? So if you can, say, hey, I want to know what are the custom business rules on my CMDB. Just tell Echelon, just ask Echelon in natural language, and it's able to go into your instance and scan for all these, custom business rules that might be conflicting with out-of-box IRE or scripts or business rules or anything like of that sort. And one of the things we designed Echelon to do is, it's not a black box, right? The moment I asked this, it went to work, but we know what it's exactly doing, right? Right now it's telling, hey, I'm going to go to your business rule table, take a look at all the ones that are, maybe related to the CMDB tables, right? Look through all the CMDB tables, CI classes, and, see how many records it already viewed, right? So right now I already saw that there's 50 business rules on that specific table. And it's going to continue to work this way just so you know where Echelon is going. And if you don't like the direction it's going, you can bump it back in the right direction.
Can you talk us through what we're seeing, Alvis? Because we talked about auditability and sort of governance as in the introductions. What is Echelon doing right now? And maybe take a step back. Like, what would you have done if you'd gotten such a request?
Yeah, yeah. So this is let's just say if I didn't have Echelon as a CMA, as a CTA, architect, doesn't matter. This is a very, very big ask. Can you imagine, trying to either build a script, a JavaScript running in the background, making sure that script is correct to query business rules across all your CMDB tables. And for those of us that, know CMDB tables is thousands and thousands of tables. So it would take a very, very long time to do it manually, but also a long time to do it automatically if I were to build a script to make sure that script captures every single table in the CMDB. So within, 2 minutes, it's able to, do some of it and, maybe ask you some clarification questions. So this is where the power of Echelon is. It's because it's an AI bot, it's an AI agent, it's able to, query everything for you in record time. Let's just say. So another thing I wanted to show off is, Echelon, sometimes when you give it a very vague requirement, it's perfectly fine. We all get vague requirements as architects and, developers and even BPCs, right? If it's vague, it asks you questions. Echelon doesn't make assumptions. It doesn't hallucinate. It always asks you, specific ServiceNow questions to help it, go in the right direction, in the direction that you want it to go into. So I just said custom, but what does that mean to your organization? So I'm just going to say, both, right? I want the full picture of everything. What does, which IRE, service should we look at, right? Let's just look at the full CMDB surface, right? And I click continue. So two very, very simple questions to help it steer it in the right direction. Also wanted to mention, if you don't like any of these choices, you can always type in this chat your own answer to these questions. So while this is running, I wanted to show you the multitasking capabilities of Echelon as well. So let's just say, hey, let's move on from the CSDM walk phase. We fully did discovery. We fully did service mapping. It's really, really healthy CMDB right now. And it's working perfectly because we had Echelon to help us solve all the issues. What about CSDM walk stage? So this is the stage where the focus is governance and CI ownership. So this stage usually involves CSDM experts coming in and manually creating hundreds, if not thousands of records that assign ownership to each CI or each application or CI group on, hey, who owns what? For example, if you have thousands of Windows Server in New York, thousands of Windows Server in, I don't know, Asia, right? You might have a different support team, right? These are undiscoverable data. You have to go into the instance and create these governance records that says this group supports the New York Windows Server. This group supports the Windows servers in Asia, right? Yeah, a lot of manual work to get the CSDM walk stage. It's all manual work and it's all manual record creation. Let's see how Echelon does. So I'm just going to type, help me map this to tech management service offering dynamic CI groups, CMDB groups in ServiceNow based on CSDM 5.0, right? And for those of us that know CSDM 4 and CSDM 5, that's like a 100-page document. And if you miss something in there where you create the wrong relationship, it's just not going to work in ServiceNow. So let's use Echelon because it's an AI agent. It knows CSDM 5.0 and it's able to create all the right records, all the right relationships based on CSDM 5.0. So let me copy this. So I'll show you this attachment afterwards. All right. So let's just say, hey, my organization right now, let me enlarge it. I have multiple departments. Now, this is a very overly simplified, of your organizational structure. But just for demo purposes, let's just say we have several departments: computing, networking, storage, enterprise workstation management. And within each department, you have groups that support different CI classes. For example, computing, you have Windows Server support. Within the same department, you have Linux server support. And what do they support? What do they manage? I'm just going to say all Windows Server, all Linux server. But you may have complexities as all Linux servers within this city, this state, right? All of that needs to be defined and created manually. So let me close this. And let's see what Echelon does and how we can map this spreadsheet that doesn't mention anything, really ServiceNow, department groups, managers, into all of those records that we need to create in CSDM walk phase. Any additional questions in the chat while this is running?
I have one, Alvis. So you've been showing this as maybe you as the architect running through some of these issues and troubleshooting. I'm sure more mature CMDB operations have more than one people working on it. Does Echelon sort of help with multi-user collaboration, and like, how would that work?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. We have something in Echelon called projects or project folder. Just like how you would work maybe in SharePoint, you'll create a folder for a new project, whether that's projects related to an epic or a story, whatever it may be, right? So if you click on new project, you can go in here and create a new project, and we can call this CSDM 5.0 tech services, right? And we can create a new project this way. And inside this new project, we can invite invite people to work with you within this project. And what is the benefit of this? So let's just say I invite you to this project. Now, Anand can also see what I'm working on, and I can also see what he's working on related to this project. So, a great example of this is maybe, I'm building this tech service stuff. I go away, maybe it comes back with the design, and Anand also says, oh, for this tech service, he starts another conversation is maybe he wants to build another tech service, right? It all has context of each other. So Anand's chat has context of my chat has context of his chat. So you don't have to keep copying, pasting, let's just say a story that you're both working on. We can manage projects this way through this project folder. You can also upload your own kind of like best practices. You can upload your own kind of rules and stuff like that. So in this upload page right here, you can upload documents. You can upload stories. You can upload anything that's related to this project, whether it's Visio diagrams and whatnot, and everyone can reference back to that Visio diagram if you're trying to design a new flow or something. So we're very highly enabled for collaboration. All right. So within 3 minutes, Echelon was able to come back, read this file that I gave it that, hey, this is how our organization works. Help me map some governance records in ServiceNow. So basically doing CSDM walk right now. So basically it comes back and say, hey, this is how it works in ServiceNow. Another benefit I found Echelon is, yes, it can go out and do things. It's very, very smart, but it also teaches, you and I new things, right? Let's just say, maybe we have a junior developer, right? They may not know how CSDM 5.0 tech service offering works. They can read that CSDM 5.0 document, but it's very, very long and it's not focused enough. Right now, Echelon's telling you, hey, CSDM 5.0, this is how it works in ServiceNow, a technology management surface. And within that technology management surface, you have technical management offering. And within that offering, you have a CI relationships to dynamic CI groups. And then within that dynamic CI group, you have CMDB group. So I found that it also not only does it help experts, but it also helps juniors learn ServiceNow as well. And then I always get that comment, hey, if we start using an AI tool, am I going to be, dumber? No, because, Echelon will actually teach you, all of these concepts as well. All right, so let's move down. Here's the proposed mapping. It looks like, hey, I had this department, department field or column in the CSV. I really think that should be a tech service name. We should call it computing, networking, storage, enterprise workstation management. And then going down further, we should have groups created for all of these service offerings. So when a CI comes in an incident, it's able to know, hey, I should assign it to this Linux servers group because Linux server, that's a Linux server, or that's a Oracle DB support storage server, right? And it's going to ask you additional questions. It's even able to go to CMDB groups and create those highly complex CMDB encoded queries that will say, hey, for Mac OS computers, what does that really mean in North America? Well, we can say it has to be this specific class. The OS has to be Mac OS, and the location has to be North America. So let's go through the rest of the questions and have it build. So do the 7 support groups already exist? We can say, yes, they already exist, or no, I don't know. I don't know. Can you query my instance to check? Right? I didn't like any of that answers. I was able to type something and answer it. Should I validate the CI class? Yes, let's validate them. Which group sync field should be set? All of them, right? So for those of us that know, CSDM 5.0, we know there's support group, change group, and manage by group. All 3 groups may be different, maybe the same. Let's keep it simple, but that's really important based on CSDM 5.0 to assign those groups to each service offering. If you don't do that, right, when an incident comes in and it's like a Linux server, it doesn't know who to automatically assign this to, right? So it's really important, and that's why it's asking you this question. It's because it's highly critical that we assign these groups to the offering. So let's just say, hey, let's just assign one group to all three, just to keep it simple. Let's build it. Yeah, why not?
I'm curious for the folks on the chat. How often do you folks have to do something like this, and how painful or not is that process?
I can help answer if the chat doesn't answer. A lot of clients get stuck at CSDM walk phase because it's so manual. They see that they have to create thousands of records, so they don't do it, right? They rather use assignment rules. They rather use priority rules because it's just easier. But based on CSDM 5.0, to reach this stage, to reach this level of maturity, we have to do it. And this is where Echelon can help you do it quickly. And then did you,
As these
while,
things,
yep, sorry.
yeah, as these things are working, Alvis, one other thing that we talked about in the introduction was how we also understand your instance's best practices, and we realize that every instance is different. How does Echelon understand, and how can someone sort of configure slash provide that information to
I feel like our brain waves are fully aligned now because that when I was about to ask you is exactly the same thing I was going to show. But yes, to answer your question, like how does Echelon follow your best practice? Because maybe my best practices and how we train Echelon is not your best practices, or maybe you have maybe a variable sets that you're always using in your organization that every single time you design a new catalog item, um, you should use that variable set. Those are the things that we need to, show Echelon how to do that. So let me go into an admin view. So if you go to the settings page right here, and go to manage agent. In here, we'll click on, organizational best practices, and you can also have your own best practices. But simplicity's sakes, we're going to focus on the organizational best practices, right? In this, what we call organizational knowledge, you can click on add knowledge. And in here, this is where you define your standards, your best practices. I'll give you a quick example here. Let's just say update set, right? And you choose which best practices apply to which instance. You can have multiple instances, right? So I can say very, very good example is every organization's naming set convention is completely different. Some like to use initials, some like to use story names, some tag it by epics, whatever it may be, maybe sprints, right? I can quickly define in Echelon within less than 30 seconds how Echelon create and name update sets. So I can say when what is the scenario when creating new update sets? Name it with this standard. We can say maybe story number, right? And then we can say short description, and then maybe initials of the user, right? I know I'm using a little curly bracket there. That doesn't really matter. You can even remove that. Echelon is able to understand your context, and you can even give it an example. The moment you do that, you click create knowledge. It's able to create that knowledge for this specific instance. Now, every single time, Echelon runs into this scenario, which is creating new update sets, it's going to name it to this standard based on your organization. Another great example of that is, one of our clients said, hey, we're not ready for CSDM 5.0 yet. We're still on CSDM 4.0. Can we just, use Echelon to follow CSDM 4.0? Yeah, no problem, right? We can say CMDB. So we can say all of these different categories. Say, oh, see, it looks like CMDB exists already, which is awesome. We can go into here. We can say, when referencing CSDM, know that we are only at CSDM 4.0. Do not reference CSDM 5.0, right? You can also control it like that. So it's very, very flexible on how you can control Echelon's knowledge, as well as standardization, as well as best practices for your organization. In addition to that, you can also do your own kind of like best practices, right? So you can have your own best practices, whether you're your BPC or a developer, to override what, or maybe not override, but maybe not, you're not ready for organizational wide best practices and you're testing things out. You can implement your own kind of knowledge as well for individual users. All right. So now that Echelon finished the design, answered all the questions on creating all these technical service offering groups and governance groups, this is where I wanted to showcase Echelon's kind of like human in the loop. So this is where that governance comes in. So Echelon is not going to go out and just build things for you, update your instance. It's not going to go rogue like that. And we designed it that way where we're always asking the end user, you guys are still the architects, you guys are still, the masters of your domain. No, all of the things that Echelon's about to do, you have to approve it. So right now, hey, I'm trying to create a new update set, and I know this came out before I renamed the update set, and that's perfectly fine. But here are all the things I need to create, based on what you told me. So I need to create those 7 groups, right? I need to create all of these 7 groups, right? So I can go and say approve. Here are all the groups I need to create. Do I approve it? Maybe I need to make changes to it. Maybe I don't like the name of MySQL DB support. You can say, hey, for my Oracle DB support, name it to this instead. And it's going to adjust the plan and ask you for approval again. But right now, I like it. I'm going to say approve for this turn or approve for this task. Now, task is individual task versus turn is this entire turn. It's going to go out and you're approving for the entire turn. It's not going to ask you again for that approval. So it's up to you. As you build trust with Echelon, you can definitely use approve this turn. So let's just say approve. And after you approve, it's going to start saving, uploading those records into your ServiceNow instance. Now, if it's a configuration record, yeah, for sure, it's going to be contained in your update set. And to answer Tim's question, yes, we can ask Echelon to review the data that's already in your CMDB, like all the technical service offering, and just see if if we're actually following best practices. It may come back and say, hey, you don't have support groups on this, or hey, this support group doesn't look like there's anyone in it, or maybe you can say, hey, show me the full service map, upstream, downstream for this application service. Right? Let me know if there's any relationships that are incorrect based on CSDM. It's going to review all of that for you, and then it's going to propose, hey, maybe this relationship this is maybe CSDM 2.0. This is wrong now. Let's fix it, right? And you're going to say approve. Yes, let's fix it. And it's going to upload that relationship and it's going to update that relationship for you.
Alvis, can we try that example? I know, it really depends on the actual instance itself, but
Yeah.
curious to see how that would go.
Yeah, I think I had one built previously. Let's see. Yeah, so this one right here, hey, I said, show me an architectural diagram of all upstream and downstream CIs in relationship for Epic production, which is a application service that we mapped out manually. Because we didn't turn on automated, service mapping, we manually mapped this out. So it's able to, within 2 minutes, query all the upstream and downstream relationship related to this application service. And it's going to give you this very nice diagram view of how your application service works. So we have the Epic production application service here. It's part of this service discover table. We have the relationship, the CMDB rel CI relationships to Epic application, but it also consumes the business application called Epic and all of the infrastructure that runs this Epic application. So just so you know, hey, maybe if this Linux server goes down, your Epic production Epic production application service is going to be degraded.
There's another question, Alvis. Does Echelon provide industry standard recommended attributes for the 3 Cs across the commonly used CIs?
So Echelon has its own kind of like industry standard recommendation, learned from a bunch of different sources and how we trained it. So I was going to say yes, it does. So you can ask it, hey, for the 3 Cs for this specific CI class, what are the recommended attributes I should set here for the health score? You can definitely ask it that, and I can definitely show you right now for the Windows Server class. Now, what are some industry, trying to get that right, industry standard or best practices for let's see, recommended attributes. Oh, you were gonna say Windows Server? Awesome. We all love Windows, right? Not Solaris though. They're very, very complex. I know we probably only have 10 minutes left, but I do want to multitask and show you one last demo. So let's let that run. Let's let the technical service management creation run. Who here has used CMDB data manager policies? I get a yes or a no in the chat. My suspicion for most people, most clients will be no.
Awesome. I'll let you know once people sort of answer that, Alvis.
And my reasoning for, guessing no, it's because, oh, Tim, awesome. Tons of data manager policy for principal dependent class. Well, you're well ahead compared to other clients of ServiceNow. And the reason I asked that is to get to CMDB Data Manager, you can definitely start using it as is, but a lot of times it requires, those support groups, managed by groups, all of those things to be able to find the right users to assign those attestation policies. Or this is where it's like really high maturity, where you're trying to automate some of that cleanup of your CMDB. And a lot of times clients don't know where to start or what's required. So let's do this. Let's ask Echelon about it. What CMDB data manager policies are standard best practices? Which one should I implement first? While that is running, it looks like we have a new update on that specific question that you asked. So it says, for the Windows Server class, what are some industry standard best practices or recommended attributes? So it's able to understand the Windows Server CI class. It's able to understand what are the fields in that CI class. And it suggested, hey, these are the foundational ones. You really need name, serial number, IP address, last discovered, which it's gonna populate if you use discovery, and FQDM, and maybe more hardware specific ones, right? For capacity planning, vulnerability management, for patching decisions. So not only was it able to recommend you specific industry standard fields, it was able to tell you why it was able to it recommend that. So for this is foundation, I already uses them. That's the reason why we need this. And for this one is more about capacity planning, vulnerability, and patching. And then this one's for critical patch management, just to know, hey, what Windows Server version are you on? Are you on a version that's older, where it has a bunch of vulnerability issues? So hopefully that resolves your question as well.
Alvis, maybe there's another related question here, which is, let's say a lot of my Windows servers are still in 2016. Would Echelon come out and say you better upgrade and update the compliance policy after upgrades are done?
So by default, we can make Echelon run as an agent and do a query every, I don't know, every week, every day, whatever it may be, to build out that use case. Hey, if I have Windows servers from 2016, we can make Echelon go check if there's any vulnerabilities. We make Echelon go check if you should upgrade, and give you that notification in your Teams channels or Slack channel, whatever it may be, and says, hey, I noticed this Windows server is about to be outdated. Are you going to update it? Yeah, we can definitely do that for you. Let's go back to this one. All right, so this is that CMDB data manager policies. I don't know what the best practices are. I don't know where to start. What should I implement? So let's take a look. So CMDB data manager, this is like kind of that education and recommendation at the same time, teaches you that, hey, there's retire, archive, delete, attestation, certification, and delete CMDB related query. What should you start first? We really should start the manual part first, right? We shouldn't start automating deletion of your CMDB, because that's highly mature CMDB and highly mature organization. So we should start with attestation. Implement this first. It's because it's the lowest risk, right? What is attestation? It's not destructive. It's just basically approving, hey, does that server really exist? And we have, depending on the managed by group of that CI. So the previous exercise we did for technical service offering and technical service management, you need that managed by group in those CIs for this attestation to work properly, because to automate, you need to have data. So it says, hey, do attestation first, then do certification. Still low risk. We're still certifying that all Linux servers must have this. Maybe they must have this CPU. They must have 4 cores, or 2 gigs of RAM, whatever it may be. And then finally, we kind of go towards more automated, maybe CMDB policies, and that's where that CMDB maintenance come in, automated maintenance come in. So we can say, hey, if the server haven't been discovered in, let's just say 90 days, you can control this. We can say 1 year. Maybe we should mark it as proposed retirement. Now you can do it 2 ways. You can say in the CMDB policies, you can make it so someone approves it before it automatically retires it, or you can make it so it's automated, because we already trust it. We already know what our rules are. Just so all of this helps keep your CMDB with the 3 C's, correct, compliance, all of those great things, right? Healthy, right? All of those things, and so on and so forth. As you move on to the phases, you become more and more mature. And I know most clients probably wouldn't do delete, because we almost never delete anything in ServiceNow. But there are some clients where it's like, hey, those VMs, they're spun up and then spun down. We're gonna have thousands, if not millions of them if we don't delete them. So maybe you should start implementing those delete policies. All right. Any questions with, I think we did maybe five or six demos so far.
Alvis, Tim had a question, and I think it was pretty well stated. I actually, if you go to your project that you started,
Yes.
I have started another task just on that.
Yes.
So if you refresh that, yep. So maybe let's walk through this a little quickly and see what Echelon is doing.
All right. We're showing you that collaboration in action immediately.
What do you think of this request, Alvis? Like, is this something that you've seen over and over again in your experience?
Yeah. Let me quickly read it. I'm primarily interested in reviewing existing CI support groups. Okay. And using the current CMDB data to develop initial framework for technical. Oh, interesting. The goal would be to create a starting point for discussion with each class owner, allowing us to review, refine, and adjust the dynamics to remember. Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a very, very good use case. Hey, maybe, so for those of us that are trying to catch up, what Tim is saying is, hey, I'm not using technical service offering right now, but I do have existing support groups on the CIs. So it's kind of like, hey, do we do this first, cart before the horse before the cart? No, perfectly fine, right? But I want to move towards technical service offering. So it's just more automated, easier to maintain. I want to use this as a discussion points, and maybe adjust the dynamic CI groups later on, just so it's more aligned to what we're doing. So let's see. So right now, let's see what's already there. Echelon look to all your CMDB tables. It's able to see what's there. We already have this technical service because the other one was creating it. Perfectly fine. I see all these dynamic CI groups already. Oh, it's even able to, awesome. It's able to go into each one of these classes and see if they're covered by technical service offering, right? And if it's covered by dynamic CI groups already, right? If it's not, like this one, yeah, that's a point of discussion. Why do we have, 7 Unix servers, but it's not covered by TSO? Maybe we should start creating those TSO based on what it is currently assigned to that Unix server's support group. Yeah. I think this will work really well in your instance, Tim, because it's then able to go into each one of these kind of like CI classes and take a look at all the support groups and which one should really be the one, created for TS and TSO.
Nice. We can go maybe 5 minutes over, Alvis, and talk through this as well. I've also kicked off the second use case that Tim then shared.
Yeah.
It's another task on the project.
Review CMDB reconciliation logic. Okay.
Maybe you can read through this one as well and tell us if you've seen this.
Yeah, so review multi-source CMDB data and assess whether the reconciliation logic, if Service Discovery is configured as the preferred source for a VM attribute, while Azure Service Graph provides more current state information. Are the reconciliation rules appropriately prioritizing the most accurate and authoritative source? Or are there conflicts that could result in outdated? Oh, yes. Yes, I love these. Yes, so like a lot of times, you have multi-source CMDB. So like you said, you have Discovery running. Usually that's the authoritative source, but then you also have Azure Service Graph Connector, and they might be conflicting with each other in terms of the IRE you don't know about it, right? Or maybe you want to control it, so maybe Azure can only update the IP or these specific fields, or maybe you want to configure it so Azure, if it comes back with the highest RAM count, that should be the authoritative source. That's the dynamic kind of like IRE reconciliation rule. We're basically asking Echelon, hey, can you check these rules for me? Are they conflicting? What is your recommendations on these rules? How should I do this if I want this specific outcome? Yeah, these are very, very deep down technical, but I love it. Yeah. Okay, so it's able to come back. It says there are 132 ServiceNow reconciliation rule. Service Watch has some. I know we mentioned Service Graph, but we don't have that on the instance. But if it does, it's going to come back and compare the two. So right now it says, yeah, there's no Service Graph connector. Like I said, this is another one of those use cases that will work really well in your instance, but not mine. Data refresh rules, right? There's only one staleness rule applied. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So in order for us to go further, I think we have to really run it in your instance because mine is just demo data right now. But it's still able to ask you those questions. Hey, which data sources are actually involved? Because I wasn't able to see Azure. Which CI classes are you really talking about? As well as this last one. What outcomes do you want? So this is where you can control the outcomes. It says, hey, I'm just trying to determine if there's any conflicts or anything like that. And you can type that in and click continue. Yeah, this is a very, very good use case. Because understanding all those rules and how they connect and interface and conflict with each other, it's going to require quite a bit of manual querying. And you can see it viewed 100 records. So that's going to take a long time manually.
Awesome. I think this was super useful. Thank you so much, Alvis, for driving through these demos and being a sport and running live demos in here. Thank you so much for folks on the call who actually contributed some use cases. This is super useful. As always, we are Echelon, and you could if you want to know more, if you want to try this out on your instance, please go to the website, echelonai.com. Happy to post that in here as well, and book some time, and be happy to reach out to you and talk one-on-one.